but we're ready. Boker Tov. Nice bright Monday morning. We're getting ready for Pesach. We've been going through so many laws about how to get rid of the chametz in so many different ways. We've even been defining what is chametz. What if you're not allowed to derive any benefit from chametz, even if the animal was eating chametz, and then you're going to eat the milk or the meat? Maybe there'll be some direct benefit, so we're careful about that in two ways. Either we buy our milk before Pesach and all of our meat before Pesach when there was no prohibition, really, and so you're not getting benefit from anything that was prohibited. Or the kashrut organizations are very careful in this country to switch out the feed. Animals are not fed chametz for the entire Pesach and for the entire week or 2 weeks before even. So you really don't have anything to worry about when you talk about the meat or the eggs. And we also, just a little review, we talked about medicines on Pesach as well, that they might have some binding agent that's made from wheat flour, starch, which comes from grains, and that maybe is a problem. We said, according to most poskim, it's not a problem as long as it doesn't have any taste to it. Right. The fact that you imbibe the medicine, actually put it in your mouth on Pesach, that doesn't mean you make it important. Just to be careful, there are certain Pesach lists of Pesach kosher medicines, which means that A, if they have taste, they've been checked out. And B, if they don't have any taste, they've also been checked out that they're using potato starch instead of, grain-based starch. And it's a nice chumrah. If you have a choice between two medicines, one that's been checked, that there's no, chametz-based starch in there, by all means, go for it. If you can't, if there's no taste to it, it's not a lozenge, it's not syrup, it's not chewable, then it's okay. באחת היום. בסדר. בבקשה, שלום. בוקר טוב. בוקר טוב לרב ליסמן, בוקר טוב. Okay, so that's the review of what we did yesterday. Questions? No, we're good to go. So let's continue. We'll finish off the chapter, and then we'll get into the topic we've all been waiting for, kitniot. And we'll see, it's a nice discussion, not only about the legumes themselves, but about how halacha works. And sometimes people get confused. I get confused sometimes, but we'll try to figure it out together. We're on page 104. Okay, 104. Who can read for us? Number 8 on page 104, citric acid. Moshe, go for it.
Citric acid. Citric acid is used to flavor juices, jams, candies, and various food items. In the past, it was produced from lemons and other fruit, but nowadays it is produced industrially from wheat flour. Although during the production process, the flour is initially mixed with water and may become chametz, at a later stage it loses its taste and appearance, is rendered unfit for a dog's consumption, and thus loses its status as chametz. Some poskim therefore permit eating products containing citric acid on Pesach. However, many poskim are stringent in this case. In their opinion, chametz only loses its status if it becomes unfit for a dog's consumption due to spoilage. If it is intentionally rendered inedible so that it may be used to flavor foods, it is not nullified and is considered chametz for all purposes. Rabbi She'ar Yashuv Cohen, the municipal rabbi of Haifa, investigated and found that there was no concern that citric acid is chametz. To begin with, the flour that starts the process to stop become chametz since it sits in water for only 6 minutes. Not enough time to become chametz. At this point, the starch is extracted from the mixture, and starch alone cannot become chametz. Moreover, citric acid is not produced from the wheat starch itself, but from the molds that feed off of a substance whose ingredients include a material extracted from the unleavened starch.
Wow. You eat that stuff. Go ahead.
That's it.
That's it?
I can continue over to cosmetics.
No, that's good. That's good. I just want to... in Hebrew, that's called chumtzat limon. Citric acid. It's called chumtzat limon. Limon is lemon. So, citrus, fruits. That's it. The question is, if it's made from wheat flour, you got a problem. And therefore, it's a debate. What's the bottom line? What did he say?
I would say we can eat it.
Mm-hmm.
You can, because it doesn't actually
It's
become
if you have the raw substance, a dog wouldn't eat it.
Right.
If you're like food grade citric acid, it's like dust. It's like you can't really.
Right.
You can put like a little bit in your mouth, but if you swallow too much, you'll get sick because it'll lower your body's pH so much.
Yeah, it's kind of poison.
Yeah.
Right. So, first of all, the basic idea is it's not made from citrus. It's called citric acid. It's called in Hebrew chumtzat limon, but it's not made from limonim. It's not made from lemons. It's actually made from wheat flour. So that's the problem. And then they mix up those wheat flour with water. So that's a problem. That's chametz. So if it's if it loses its taste and appearance, it becomes unfit, and some people allow it. Still, if it gets reconstituted, maybe we should be machmir, and that's why a lot of people are machmir. Of course, based on the science, it's interesting. The investigation was done that if it's never going to become chametz anyways, then it's not going to be revived again. If you intend to put it there to flavor foods, but the truth is,
I think it's they do it. They put it in for
preservative.
Mm-hmm. That's the purpose.
It's actually used for flavor. So that's the problem.
Acid.
Yeah. No, this is for flavor. And the truth is, most of the citric acid is not actually from wheat starch, but from the molds, which so we're pretty. It's a big machlok. But the truth is, what did we say yesterday? That whenever you go buying foods for Pesach, you're going to look for the kosher lePesach stamp on it. So if it says kosher lePesach on it, they are not relying on the leniency which he brings here, even though there may be room to, as he says, it's not really. It's
possible there exists kosher for Pesach productions of citric acid that use other
correct
citrus fruit. For sure.
I don't know if they're using citrus fruit or what they're using, but they're not using chametz. Whatever, they're making sure that it doesn't become chametz, and it's supervised in that way, and so. Let's move ahead. As I said, if you're following the kashrut certification, it says kashrut pesach on it. The rabbis looked into it and make sure there's nothing to worry about. And most of the rabbis are not relying on this heter, which he says that any citric acid is okay, based on Rav Shari Yashuv. So there's even more checks that go into it. So if it says kashrut pesach on it, you'll be following the machmir shita. Don't worry about it. Soaps and cosmetics. Okay, Nathan, read for us, please.
Soaps and cosmetics. Poskim disagree whether body ointments that contain chametz may be used on Pesach. While soaps, shampoos, and creams are not made from chametz, they sometimes contain grain alcohol or other chametz derivatives, leading to queries about their status on Pesach. Some say that applying an ointment is equivalent by rabbinic enactment to drinking. Consequently, even if the chametz is in these products is not fit for a dog's consumption, it retains the status of chametz because it is suitable for anointing, and thus it is forbidden to use them on Pesach. Accordingly, one must use soap, shampoos, and creams that are kosher for Pesach.
So there is this principle in the Talmud. It says sicha kishtia. Sicha means anointing. Shtia is drinking. And there's a debate. The original context was in the context of Yom Kippur. You're not supposed to anoint yourself with creams on Yom Kippur. You're not allowed to eat, drink, have relations, wear shoes, and anoint yourself. People used to anoint themselves a lot more than they do now. But still, a lot of women do every day. They put on creams and stuff like that. So the principle in the Talmud says that if anointing is like drinking, well, so then you're drinking. And if it's made with alcohol, and the alcohol is made from grain, so then you're drinking. It's like you're drinking chametz on Pesach. So some poskim forbid it. They say you've got to therefore check all of the soaps and cosmetics, even though you're not drinking your soap and your cosmetics, you are anointing them. And if anointing equals drinking, and what do they do? These kashrut supervision, they make sure that the way they make it is without any grain-based alcohol. There's synthetic alcohol, there's all kinds of other things, but you have to check them. That's the more machmir. What does that mean? Stringent approach. You have to have a kashrut certification on your shampoo and creams and soaps. Others maintain, go ahead, Nata.
Others maintain that the stages only equated the application of anointment to drinking with regard to Yom Kippur and anointing with oil consecrated as tumah, priestly gifts. All the Torah prohibitions relate to eating alone, not anointing. Although it is forbidden to derive benefit from chametz, the chametz in these products was rendered unfit for a dog's consumption even before Pesach began, and thus lost the status of chametz. It is therefore permissible to derive benefit from them and apply them to the body during Pesach. Since this dispute relates to rabbinic law, the halakha affords with a lenient opinion, and meticulously observant individuals are stringent.
I remember growing up, there was this was always a difficulty, and it still is a difficulty in many communities. It's famous in America. There's a whole book this rabbi puts out every year, all about all the different cosmetics and perfumes and soaps which are kosher Pesach. In Israel, you can get them too. Over the past years, for me at least, it's been a little bit of a transition. I've come to realize and to paskin lekula, to go more lenient on soaps and cosmetics and creams. And like he says, a lot of it, my decision was based on the fact that it's very rare that you have grain-based alcohol in all these cosmetics. It's just more expensive. It's cheaper now to get the synthetic-based alcohol, and so that's more commonly used. So even though I'm not 100% sure if it's really such a far-out concern, I decided to be lenient, and therefore I don't require, I don't have to check up the lists to look, which cream to buy or which shampoo to buy for Pesach. I don't really need kosher Pesach shampoo anymore, because even if there was, first of all, there's no, there's not, chances are there's no grain-based alcohol in there, and even if there was, I'm not drinking it. I'm just anointing it, and anointing is like drinking only for Yom Kippur, as he says, and it's unfit for eating. Of course, nobody eats their soap, and even a dog doesn't eat soap, so it remains unfit for all time, and therefore there's quite room to be lenient. However, you should be aware, a lot of people are still machmir, and therefore those companies which also produce lists of medicines which are kosher Pesach, according to the more machmir shita, that maybe there's grain-based starch. There's also lists. Those same lists will also have lists of which shampoos and soaps have been checked out to make sure that there's no grain-based in there. And there's room to be, as he says, if you want to be meticulously observant, there's room to be machmir. But since he says, as a rabbinic law, it really makes things a lot simpler. Cleaning your house for Pesach, you don't really have to get rid of all your soaps and shampoos and cosmetics, and it's only about food that you really care about, and that's a lot more intuitive to most people. But you should understand what's going on. Now, it does get a little more complicated, because there is a well-known chumrah about toothpaste. Let's see. Keep reading that. And there's 4 gradations, he says, where you should maybe be a little bit more machmir, or a little bit, there's room for leniency. Halacha lema'aseh. What does that mean, halacha lema'aseh?
Halachas that you should do.
Practically speaking, everything when you learn halacha, you learn about the laws. Halacha lema'aseh, we're going to learn about the laws practically, bottom line. That's what we're looking for. So now he's reaching the bottom line after all this discussion, where you have to have extra care or not. So go for it. Distinctions.
Distinctions must be made between 4 gradations of products containing chametz, of which the middle 2 are subject to dispute. Toothpastes must be certified kosher for Pesach because they are flavored and thus like any other food product.
So that's interesting. You know, I grew up. I'm sounding really old here, but not so long ago, and in the religious community, and the standard was that we didn't have kosher Pesach toothpaste. He says here, like that's obvious. Number 1 is obvious, and number 4 is obvious. Number 1, it's not obvious. When I grew up, we didn't have kosher Pesach toothpaste. Where the instruction was, you get a new tube.
Right.
You start a new tube. The old tube you sell or whatever, you leave it aside for the week, or you throw it out if there's just a little bit left, and you buy a new tube and Colgate or Crest. That's what it was. It was the popular ones in America, and apparently there was. Behind the scenes, the rabbi went ahead and he checked out that Crest and Colgate are okay, and those were you buy a new tube and that's it. But the life has moved on, and the Jewish community has grown, and the rabbinic supervision has become better and better. And since, of course, why is toothpaste? Sometimes you swallow a little bit of toothpaste, you're going to taste it a little bit, and as we said, by medicines also. Anything that has a little bit of taste, that's it's food. It's considered food, so you have to be careful about it. Nowadays, all the Crests and the Colgates have a Hechsher sign on it. Not all of them, though. They make them special run for Passover. It's kosher for Passover, so you should look for that if possible. If not, there is, as I said, room to be lenient because I think it's more rare that you have grain-based. But toothpaste is of all the creams and shampoos and cosmetic things, the most you should be careful about the toothpaste because it actually has taste and you're putting it in your mouth and you're tasting it, like I said, with the medicines. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 and 3, he said it's a matter of debate, but that's what we just discussed, the creams. Go ahead.
Okay, creams that are absorbed into the skin, flavorless lipstick, and perfumes that contain alcohol need not be certified kosher for Pesach. In keeping with the lenient opinion, since they are not fit for consumption and generally do not contain chametz ingredients. Nevertheless, many choose to be stringent and buy creams and perfumes that are certified kosher for Pesach.
I remind you, the Rav Moshe Feinstein's svara is that when he was in Russia, there would be the alcoholics on the street drinking perfume, right? Because they needed their alcohol. And so it's not fit for human consumption. You consider those alcoholics human. Maybe it is. And so there's room to be machmir on this. Again, as I said, the bottom line is he's right. A lenient opinion makes sense because it's really not fit for it's poison. It's poison. It could kill you. Don't try this at home. Just because those drunkards they were addicted. They had no. But it's very dangerous to drink this kind of alcohol. Yes.
So I have a question on this term that we say not fit for human consumption and then not fit for a dog's consumption.
Correct. Yeah.
So I don't want to be disgusting when asking this question, so I'm going to try to ask it carefully. But I'm sure you know the stories of people whose lives were on the line and they had to eat horrible things.
Yeah, for sure.
Would we consider those things? And I don't want to be specific about it. Would we consider those things, even if we would normally never eat them or never even feed them to a dog? We wouldn't consider that. We would consider those still not fit even for a dog's consumption.
It's a good question. I think we don't follow the extreme situations. Extreme situations, you could eat earth. People eat dust. Dust is not. Because people are starving, they'll eat anything. But the
stuff that one would eat in a case of pikuach nefesh.
That's not considered food. That's not the standard we use. Okay. The standard we use is normal people. But what's an alcoholic? He's still a normal person, and that's why Rav Moshe was machmir more on these perfumes and stuff like that had alcohol base. But as he said, the halacha is that many choose to be stringent, to buy creams and perfumes that are certified kosher for Pesach. And we do have, luckily, nowadays a lot of certification. There's a lot of time and money invested in making sure that, 100% sure, that there's no grain-based alcohol in any of these. So that's the kosher LePesach shampoo you're going to find. Next, number 3, keep going, finish it off.
Soaps and shampoos warrant even more room for leniency because they are designed to clean, not to be absorbed into the skin. Nevertheless, some are stringent.
Okay.
Detergent, shoe polish, and the like do not require any kosher certification. Even dishwashing detergent need no certification because their taste is foul. Even if these substances were mixed with chametz, its taste was befouled before Pesach, and it is no longer considered chametz.
Okay, so the dishwashing liquid, the dishwashing powder, you don't need any of that. It's soap. It's not food. And even if there was at some point some little bit of grain-based product, it's not chametz. Okay, kitniot. Kitniot. Believe it or not, there's something, if you look online, not that you're online, but there's something called the Kitniot Liberation Front. You heard of this?
I've heard of this.
You heard of this?
No,
Not really, no. This is my first
can
time.
you explain what this is?
Yeah, I'm going to. Now, a lot of people get mixed up, and they think that the rabbis think that kitniot is chametz. Kitniot means legumes. It's a category which we're going to try to define a little bit better. You'll see in a few moments. But they developed a custom about 600 years ago, 800 years ago in the Ashkenaz, in the European countries, that they refrained from eating not only chametz on Pesach, but also kitniot. Kitniot is the general term. We'll see the details. Nobody's quite sure why. Even the earliest sources which describe this custom, they're not sure why. But it became a very clear and very strict custom among all the Jewish religious Orthodox communities, and it started to spread also. So everybody that comes basically from Europe does not eat kitniot on Pesach. There's a few good reasons that make sense. We'll go into it, but don't fall for the misinformation. The misinformation. Now, a lot of people find this custom to be difficult. Why? It's not so hard not to eat legumes. One second. It's not so hard not to eat legumes for 7 days. You guys don't even know what legumes are. Do you eat legumes during the week, during the year? Not such a big part of our diet, but sometimes if you can't have it, it becomes something you really, really want. Why is it so difficult? Because we merited to live in 2022 in an age in the land of Israel where we have the ingathering of the exiles. And we have Jews from many different communities living together. And what makes it hard is that all the Jews not from Europe, they eat it. For them, it's not chametz. And so looking over the other pasture is always greener, right? There's an expression like that. That's what makes it difficult, I believe. That we want to have one halacha for everybody. They're not going to take on a stringency which we don't really understand the proper reasons for. They don't have to. So something's got to give if we want everybody to be celebrating together the same Pesach, the same holiday, the same rules. And so there's a big force from the ground up. It's a groundswell of a community that really has a hard time with this custom. Now, we're going to see that keeping customs is a very big part of Judaism. And but what's the misinformation? The misinformation of these people that are like fighting the fight against this custom, for whatever reason, is that they say, those stupid Ashkenazim, they think kitniot is chametz. Now, nobody thinks kitniot is chametz. Even the most strict Ashkenazim, who are very, very strict about keeping this custom, like me, we'll see that there's some corners that I do cut. But I'll explain why also. even the most strict Ashkenazim, nobody is an idiot. Nobody thinks it's really chametz, but it's a custom that we have to keep the custom. And that's the debate. Some people are more lenient about the custom, not. But don't fall for the misinformation and think that, people, they're just stupid. It's not stupid. It's a custom. It has its sources. We're not quite sure about the reason. We'll see the many different reasons why. And maybe, I believe, it's not why I keep the custom. I keep the custom because it's our tradition. My family, both sides, came from Poland. And that's the way we kept Pesach for hundreds and hundreds of years. So I'm not going to change that. I change it a little bit, but you'll see what I mean. That's the main reason. But also, some of the reasons that we're going to see, actually, there is room to be wary that inside the legumes, there might be some chametz mixed in, and we'll see why presently. But before we start reading the actual text, there's a bunch of questions. Moshe first. Yeah.
It's not a question, just Ruben posted on he's watching us right now.
Oh, yes.
Shalom from Kuzlar's Kidneyot Liberation Front. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is hilarious. Unfortunately, a lot of people take it seriously. It bothers them. It really bothers them to keep this custom. And I understand where it's coming from. It's good to be together, all the Jewish people with the same. But on the other hand, there's a value to keeping customs. I studied once a course with Professor Rabbi Dr. Sperber, who is an expert on customs. He wrote I think it's a 9-volume series of different customs in Israel and where they came from and explaining them. And he said to me in the course, take a guess. How much of the Shulchan Aruch is law and how much of it is custom?
80%.
He said 90.
Wow.
He said 90. It's a shocking thing. The definition between law and custom becomes blurred over time because it's such an important principle in Judaism that you keep up your customs. And so the lines get blurred. Right? We talked about the Shulchan Aruch as basically 2 books. There's the Shulchan Aruch and then the glosses of the Ramah. The Rav Yosef Karo wrote the book, The Table. And then Rabbi Moshe Isserles, what did he do? He wrote the tablecloth on top of the it was everywhere. He said it wasn't always a debate of who's right and who's wrong. Many times the Ramah would say, the custom in our communities is not like that. You brought lots of halakha and lots of custom based on the Sephardi world and the Spain and North Africa. But I'm sitting in Poland, in Krakow, and I tell you, we have our sources, and we have our communities, and it's written in our books that we do this differently. And it's not all a question of right or wrong. It's a question of what the custom is. And so customs are very, very important. And so I'm the last one that would, I'm not a fan of the Kidneyot Liberation Front, or whatever they want to call it. The fighters to let's stop with this horrible custom of Kidneyot for the sake of unity of the Jewish people. I'm all for unity, but we have to balance it out with the need for unity and the important principle to keep our customs. Customs is, where does it come from, this idea that you have to keep the customs of the Jewish people? It says, Shema b'ni musar avicha v'al titosh torat imecha. It's a pasuk in Mishlei. It says, hear, my son, the Torah of your father, and don't forsake the Torah of your mother. What's the Torah of your father and the Torah of your mother? We only have one Torah. So the Gemara already explains that the Torah of your father is perhaps maybe the strict letter of the law, and the Torah of your mother is the customs that we do. So it's a Torah principle that we have to keep up our customs. It's a big question exactly how to define them. There can be a custom which is just wrong, and we throw it out. But for the most part, this is important, and we're going to see it inside in just a minute. Did you have a question? And then we'll go to David's question.
Having different Jews of different communities within the Jewish people.
Together.
Couldn't we just have specialized catering where
yes,
this table
you
is
could.
This table isn't?
You could, sure, you could, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, David.
And my question is, what is the purpose of this Kidneyot Liberation Front? They want to rid the Kidneyot out of all custom,
They think it's wrong for the Ashkenazim to not eat Kidneyot.
Okay.
That's
We'll be
it.
eating Quinoa and they won't.
That's right. That's right. Let everybody do their customs. It's a beautiful thing, customs. So many beautiful customs, even though this one might make it a little difficult for you. The truth is, it also raises the prices. Because if you can't put any wheat flour in there, now you're also going to be machmir. If you remember back, we talked about gebrokt. So you can't even use matzah meal to make a cake.
Can you do?
Potato.
You have to find potato starch or some kind of other, and you can't use rice. We're going to see gets defined as a kitnit, and so it limits your diet. We'll talk about the details in a minute. Just this week, today's Monday, so last week, I sat on a beit din. I created a beit din of 3 rabbis in order to allow someone to eat kitniot. Somebody's Ashkenazi. His whole life, he never ate kitniot before. Now he's close to 80.
Doesn't have to renounce his vows? Or?
That's what the beit din was for. It was to annul it wasn't quite a vow. We're going to see that I don't think it's necessary, but I did it anyways to make him feel comfortable. They had a dietary restriction, and they were worried they won't have enough to eat. If they don't eat, any matzah anymore, and they don't have rice or legumes, how many potatoes can you eat? Potatoes all week long. So the truth is, that's our custom. We eat lots of potatoes on Pesach, but you don't have to. Nowadays we have many. There's sweet potatoes, and there are other things. You just have to work a little bit harder, and it's maybe a little more expensive for the industrial food to be made with this fancy potato starch or other kinds of starch, which is not legumes. But we're going to see all the details. Okay, ready? Ready? That was just an introduction. Renan, read for us the beginning of chapter 9.
The origin of the Ashkenazi custom. The chametz prohibited by the Torah is produced from one of the 5 types of grain: wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and rye. Other spices such as rice and millet, even if they rise, do not undergo the same fermentation process as the 5 cereal grains, and they may be eaten on Pesach. Although one Tana, Rav Yochanan
Ben Nuri.
Maintains that rice is also a cereal grain and forbidden by the Torah in its leavened state. The rest of the sages maintain that even rises, it may be eaten on Pesach. This was the practice of all the great Tanaim and Amoraim. In fact, Rava ate rice at the Seder.
Okay, so nobody goes back and says, "Oh, we're Ashkenazim. We follow Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Rice makes chametz." That's the red herring. That's what I was warning you against. Everybody knows that we don't follow Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. The halacha follows the chachamim. Okay, so rice is not chametz. That's clear. Rice is not chametz. No problem. However, go ahead.
During the medieval era of the Rishonim, the Jews of Ashkenazi, German, especially the Rhineland, began to refrain from eating kitniot on Pesach. Initially, only some communities observed this stringency, but within a few generations, the custom had spread to all Ashkenazi communities.
If you look in the footnote, they don't translate kitniot because there's no precise equivalent in English. It started off meaning legumes, but currently we include a few other types of foods which are not actually legumes, and then not every thing that's botanically called a legume is actually included in kitniot. So we don't have a precise translation of legume. We're going to see what the custom include.
Legumes, rice,
Right.
beans.
Yeah, we're gonna see what's included based on the custom. Yes, it's coming. But rice is a classic. Rice is definitely one of the major issues. In some places they don't eat much bread, but they eat a lot of rice. So on Pesach, you're not allowed to eat bread and you're not allowed to eat rice, according to this custom. You got yourself a dietary restriction. Okay. 3 principal reasons for this custom have been offered. Ariel, take it away. Top of page 110.
3 principal reasons for this custom have been offered. A. Since kitniot are cooked in the same manner as grains in a pot, there is concern that if people cook rice on Pesach, they will end up mistakenly cooking forbidden types of grain.
There is let me give you an example of something which today we're fighting the fight, not Kitniot Liberation Fund. We're fighting the fight. What gets included in this custom of Kitniot? Well, it's a custom. So whatever was the custom. We don't make them do stuff. True. However, one example is quinoa. Quinoa essentially is grown on a flour. It's a flour. It's really not a grain. And so it's definitely not a legume or a grain. So it should be allowed on Pesach. Some rabbis say can't have quinoa. It is included in the custom. Why? Because of reason A. It's cooked in the same manner as grains in a pot. So now you're cooking up a pot of quinoa, but tomorrow you're going to cook up a pot of wheat berries or barley. Instead of putting in the barley to your the quinoa in your soup, you're going to put barley in your soup, which of course is chametz gamur. Right? Barley and wheat are one of the 5 grains, so they make chametz. So because it might get mixed up because it's used in the same manner, it's cooked in the same manner, and that's a quite expansive definition. You are in a kitchen, you're making food.
No, but you clean your kitchen. So it's not
but the next door neighbor, you go to the market, the non-Jews are selling their wheat and barley. You don't stop them, so you could mix up. You say, okay, tell your son I need to go. I don't have enough quinoa here. Instead of going quinoa, he buys some barley, whatever. It could happen. It is a large fence, yeah. But that's only the first reason. Keep going. There's 2 other reasons. Ariel.
B. Since kitniot, like cereal grains, are often made into flour, if the unlearned masses see pious Jews cooking and baking foods with kitniot flour without concern for it becoming hametz, they are liable to do the same with grain flour as well. The rabbis of the Talmud were not concerned about this because, in their day, Jewish tradition was clear and established. However, the tribulations of the exile and the scattering of Jewish communities gave rise to a fear that some Jews would be cut off from tradition and come to forget that it is forbidden and what is forbidden and what is permitted. Eating kitniot on Pesach will cause them to err and eat forbidden cereal grains without taking care that they do not become corrupt.
Now listen to this. According to this, if that's the reason, anything that you turn into flour could get mixed up with wheat flour. According to this, there was a great rabbi about 200 years ago, known as Rabbi Adam Danziger. He wrote a book called Chayei Adam, and he followed this logic, and he says, well, potatoes should be forbidden because you make potato flour, and potato flour could get mixed up with wheat flour. And they say to him, well, if you make potatoes forbidden, we won't have what to eat. In Hebrew, to have what to eat is called Chayei Adam. That's the name of his book. So the Chayei Adam is not leaving us Chayei Adam. And his attitude was not accepted. Potatoes are not considered kitniot. And so we see that this reason is not absolute 100%. We're just going to follow each one of these reasons until the nth degree, because then we won't have anything to eat. But that's a second concern, an explanation of why. Now the third concern, in my opinion, is the strongest one, and it still applies today. I had it in my kitchen more than once. Take a look. Number C. Go ahead.
C. Number C. Letter C. Grain and kitniot kernels are similar in appearance and are kept in the same storehouses for relatively long periods. It is therefore imminently possible that wheat or barley kernels would find their way into kitniot, and when the kitniot are cooked, the grain will become hametz. This concern persists today, and indeed, it is possible to find kernels of grain when checking kitniot.
I've seen that. I've had that because it's always good to check your grains, and you have a bag of rice, and then all of a sudden there's one kernel of wheat. It could have happened. Kasha and barley, it could have happened. Also, you know why it happens? A lot of times the problem is in the packaging plant. They do a run of wheat berries, and then they clean out the machinery, and then they package rice. Maybe they didn't clean it out so well. There's tiny little things, these pieces of grains. Also, not only in the packaging plant, but actually it starts much earlier. How do they ship rice? Big containers. So they have trucks coming from the field, from the manufacturing plant, and the truck, it's like a dump truck, right? It's filled, no bags, no sacks. The whole truck gets dumped into the container gets on a boat, and the boat gets shipped, and then they get to the port, and they empty the container out. Can they get every little grain from the bottom of the container? So the same containers are used for, a grain, and then they're used for a legume, and then, so there is danger. There is danger even in today's, of course, nowadays we have electronic, we've advanced. The packing plants of legumes, they have electronic eyes. They have all the grains going on a conveyor belt, and they actually have like an image taken. If it's elongated like rice, it gets by, and if it's round like a lentil, it'll flash. They'll send it aside. There are systems in place today to make the separation between these different dried foods, but nothing's perfect. And I've had it in my kitchen. I've had a bag that I bought of lentils, and inside there was a grain. So that it's few and far between. And as I said, it's good. You can go crazy. Yeah. And so all I'm doing, I'm not saying we don't make up new gzerot today. We don't make up new gzerot. But this is a custom that exists. We're trying to find some logic to it. And this, out of the three reasons, I find this logic the most compelling, because it's actually real. In that time, it was sacks. They used the same sack, filled it with one type of grain, and then they emptied it out, and then they reused burlap sacks. Today we still reuse sacks, big sacks, in the industrial wholesale, commerce. So they might have some leftover if you're not careful. It's true, we try to be more clean today, and even use all sorts of electronic devices to make sure that it's 100% pure because of the allergies people have. The food industry is trying to be much more precise, but it's not 100%. Anyways, one more reason, which also is, you wouldn't expect it to still happen today, but it does happen. And we know this for a fact. Crop rotation. Ariel, go ahead, finish it up. Another reason
why kernels of quinoa and cereal grain got mixed together was the common practice of crop rotation. Farmers often grow legumes for a year to replenish the soil of a field that had been used for growing grain for many years. However, kernels of the previous crop inevitably remain in the field. Thus, if a coriander or fenugreek crop is grown after a wheat crop, wheat will sprout among the coriander or fenugreek, and some kernels of wheat or barley will be found in the harvested crop of legumes. Experience shows that sometimes the quantity of cereal kernels in the quinoa exceeds 1/60th of the entire quantity. This problem applies to those species of quinoa that physically resemble cereal grain.
This happens. It's called contamination. It happens till today. The crop rotation. So you have some of the old crop, and not everything's pure, and so it could be that there's contamination. Okay, we'll talk about this a little more when we get to the mitzvah of matzah and how to fulfill it with people that are celiac and they can't have any of the 5 grains. Some say they could have oat-based matzah. So oats don't have gluten. That's what's forbidden for the celiac people. This is like a stomach allergy. It's actually quite dangerous. Some people just get a little bit stomach problem, but some people it really ruins their intestines for life. So they have to be very careful not to have any gluten. Now, oats shouldn't have any gluten, and yet we find that most people that have celiac, they can't have oats. Why? It's botanically impossible for oats to have gluten. They just don't. The answer is contamination. Because most fields and crops that grow oats, they have some leftover wheat or a little bit, and even a little bit is people are celiac, very sensitive. Their stomachs get ruined. And so, my brother's brother-in-law, he's a producer of. He's got a health food store. My brother's brother-in-law.
Your brother's wife's husband.
It's
Your
actually
your brother's wife's brother. Excuse me.
What?
Your brother's wife's brother.
very close relation. He just finished a month ago, Baruch Hashem, he finished producing his specially made oat matzahs, which he went all the way to the foreign country to make sure that this is an oat field which was never used previously for grains, so that there wouldn't be any cross-contamination. And they made matzahs, and they wrap them up, and you'll have them for Pesach, and they're very fresh. Where did he go? Where was he? Ukraine, of course. Ukraine is known as the breadbasket of the world, really. There's a lot of grain coming from Ukraine. That even rhymes. But nowadays, it's a good thing that they prepare their matzah earlier. Let's just leave it at that.
Matzahs are expensive.
Very.
Something like.
Sorry?
Something like.
I'm trying to remember. But it's like double the price of the usual matzah or more. Double the price or more and the usual matzah is expensive too. We have to guard that too. We're going to get to that soon. But let's finish up with kidney. Those are so basically 4 reasons why this custom might have developed. We're not sure. The custom just started. Doesn't know. It wasn't like. Also this, Renan. Also this. Nobody says that it's a gezerah. It's an enactment of the rabbis. There's never any Beit Din that sat down and enacted, from this day on, henceforth, all of our communities are forbidden. That's not the way it worked. It was never a gezer. It's a minhag. Minhags are important. Minhag customs are important. And they sort of developed, and that's why we don't really know the original reason. But looking at the reality, we can see why there's concern in the processing and in the selling and in the using kitniot or whatever is called kitniot on Pesach. It might be problematic. Of course, the Sephardi custom is not to refrain from eating rice. The custom never developed there. Let's keep reading. We'll try to do it. Who's going to do now? Russell, go for it. Page 110 at the bottom, the Sephardi custom. You're Sephardi, right, Russell? Working on it.
Yom Echad.
Yom Echad, okay.
The Sephardic custom. During the era of the Rishonim, all Sephardic communities ate kitniot and rice during Pesach, though they were careful to pick out forbidden grains. Indeed, Rabbi Yosef Karo writes that nobody worries about such things except for Ashkenazim. However,
okay, yes. However, it's not so simple. You think it's black and white here. I won't say which one's black and which one's white, but it's not black and white. Go ahead. However,
some leading Sephardic Achronim have written that many pious Jews refrained from eating rice during Pesach because of the case in which some wheat was discovered in rice even after it had been checked several times. The Jews of Izmir have a custom not to eat rice on Pesach, and the Jews of Morocco refrain from eating rice and other types of dry kitniot on Pesach. Ben Ish Chai, Yevon Tzav 4:1 states that in Baghdad, many lay people do not eat rice on Pesach, and those who do must first check it 2 or 3 times. Each person should perpetuate his ancestral custom. Where there is doubt or difficulty in doing so, it is best to consult a rabbinic authority. Certain spices, such as cumin, turmeric, and fenugreek, often have grains mixed in and should not be eaten without a prior meticulous inspection. Nowadays, rice is stored in the same packing houses as flour and semolina. Therefore, those who eat rice on Pesach must buy packages that are certified kosher for Pesach and then check the rice thoroughly 3 times.
Okay, spouses, we'll skip that. Prohibited species. Let's go to number 4. The familiar foods included in this custom are rice, alfalfa, peas, millet, sorghum, chickpeas, fenugreek seeds, sunflower seeds. Wow, if you're Israeli, not to have seeds on Pesach. Sunflower seeds, mustard, buckwheat, kusemet, not to be confused with kusmin, which is actually the forbidden grain, one of the five, cumin, vetch, black-eyed peas, arum, soy, mung beans, I don't know what those are, lentils, fava beans, lupin beans, poppy seeds, flax seeds, pulse, caraway hemp seeds, comets beans, sesame seeds, lupine seeds, corn, clover seed, and tamarind fruit. Products made from kidney cornflakes, corn flour, rice cakes, for example, are also included in the custom. Last year, there's a big. We're gonna see what we do with it. There was a rabbi gave a hechsher for Ashkenazim on rice cakes. He said, I went to the plant, 0 water in the entire process. They puffed them up by heat. Right? The rice cakes and rice, they're not cooked. They're puffed somehow. And if there's no water coming into contact, he says, even Ashkenazim custom, there wasn't to forbid, rice as it is. It was forbidden to be rice because it could get mixed up. It could become chametz. But anyways, a lot of people say that's not the right approach. But he may be right. Let's keep going. We'll come back to that. Saffron, originally called korkum in Hebrew, is included in the prohibition. Turmeric, that's the yellow spice they put on the food sometimes here.
Sometimes.
Yeah. That's what's modern Hebrew called karkum, and that is permitted. Mustard and flaxseed are not kidneyot, but the customs forbid them because they grow in pods like kidneyot. So mustard is, you can't have that on Pesach most if you keep the custom of kidneyot. Let's keep going. Yeah.
Corn, like food.
The custom of kidneyot is to not have corn on Pesach unless you're Sephardi. Peanuts, it's unbelievable. It's very hard if you're keeping the custom of kidneyot. What oil do you have? Like obviously in Israel you have olive oil. That's great. Olives is a fruit. There's no problem with olive oil. It's great. But most people don't like to fry with olive oil, and it's much more expensive. And in America you don't have so much olive oil. People don't use olive oil as much as they do in the Middle East because it doesn't grow so much. In those other countries, in Europe, they didn't know what an olive was. For hundreds of years, they didn't know what olives were. And so you used vegetable-based or legume-based, like sunflower oil. Well, we said sunflower, that's included in kidney oil. Or soya oil. Well, that's soya. It's a bean. It's a kidney oil. So it's forbidden. Wait, we'll get to it. Some rabbis allow it nowadays in certain circumstances. But the problem was, what oil do you use on Pesach? Do you know what the most popular oil was in America 100 years ago to use by the Orthodox Jews? Peanut oil. Peanut oil. And nowadays, if you show somebody a peanut on Pesach, they say, that's kidneyot. The custom developed that peanuts is not considered kosher for Pesach, although it used to be considered not part of the kidneyot. Why does that change? Why is this definition so vague? We're going to read a little bit about it. Here, there's different customs regarding peanuts. I'm on page 113 in the middle. Jerusalem and many other places, people refrain from eating them. Now it's pretty much all over the world. But in Greater Lithuania, and as I said, in America, they were customarily eaten. One who does not know whether his families are stringent in this regard may eat them. Rav Moshe Feinstein, he died in the 80s. Nowadays, I don't know of not too many rabbis would say that you're allowed to eat peanuts. Regarding quinoa, here, I mentioned this. This is a current events. Every year, there's a fight about this. Some are strict. Do quinoa. Quinoa. I'm saying quinoa. Is that the Israeli pronunciation?
I know in America it's pronounced quinoa.
Quinoa. In Hebrew, we call it quinoa. Yeah, quinoa. Some are strict due to its similarity to some types of kidneyot. Some are lenient since the customary prohibition does not apply to quinoa, which entered our diets only recently. It came from South America. We didn't know it existed. Moreover, its seeds are much smaller than those of our cereal grains, making them easy to distinguish. Stringency is commendable, but those who practice leniently have authorities upon whom to rely on condition that they thoroughly inspect the quinoa. Listen, the way it works is as follows. Rav Moshe Feinstein says, what's the principle? What gets included and what doesn't get included? He says, the basis of this whole discussion is a custom. So we're not going to add more things that our forefathers didn't have. They didn't have quinoa. So according to that, we're not going to say that quinoa is considered to be kitniot and forbidden. That's why I eat quinoa on Pesach. Just check it. I check it a few times. But I don't think we should add more things to the prohibition if it's unnecessarily. The only problem is that principle breaks down a little bit. Rav Moshe Feinstein himself, he said, you know what, where is corn, kitnia? It was on the list. You know, we don't eat corn. They didn't have corn either in Europe. Right? Corn is a food from North America. They didn't have it. So but the custom is that, as he said, because of all these different reasons, it looks like it's similar to, it feels like corn a little, I don't know, for whatever reason is, it became part of the prohibition of kitniot for those communities. And so we don't have corn flour either. What about potatoes? It's permitted. There is no contention based on customary prohibition of kitniot. Anything from which flour can be made should be forbidden. Rather, the custom only includes what the great Ashkenazic Rishonim forbade. Since potatoes had not yet arrived in Europe, then they're not included in the prohibition. And I told you a cute story about the Chaye Adam, who wanted to be strict, but they told him it's impossible. So we can. So what are the rules? I'll just say it briefly because I'm looking at the clock and I want to finish kitniot today and move ahead. Okay? What are the rules? So the rules of kitniot are debated, believe it or not. Some say we're going to treat kitniot like chametz. We're so strict about it. If it gets cooked in the pot is going to absorb the taste of the kitniot, and therefore you don't use it for the rest of Pesach. You consider it like chametz. If there's 1 in 60, it's going to affect the entire pot. Becomes all forbidden. However, most poskim do not treat it that way because we know that it's not really chametz and it's a custom. And so therefore, this is very important. It's very important for what I'm going to tell you soon. Very important. Take a look. Page 114, number 5. People who adhere to the custom of not eating kitniot may keep them in the house during Pesach and derive benefit from them. For example, by lighting a lamp with kitniot oil. One who does not eat kitniot on Pesach may cook them for somebody who does. It's not considered chametz, but it's recommended to use some sort of reminder that he's not cooking for himself. It is likewise permissible for a store owner to sell kitniot during Pesach. However, if there could be wheat grains among the kitniot to make up more than 1/60 of the mixture, the store owner may not sell the kitniot because this would cause customers to transgress the chametz prohibition. It would be better to sell such kitniot along with the chametz, meaning after Pesach. If kitniot falls into cooked food, now listen, this is from the Ramah. This is from the Ashkenazi posek. What is the halacha? The kitniot themselves should be removed. Whatever cannot be removed, however, becomes batel. Not 1/60. If, however, such a large amount of kitniot falls in that they become the majority, the dish is considered to be a kitniot dish. So we don't consider it like it's actual chametz. Actual chametz, even 1/60 would not be enough. We don't even consider it like regular prohibitions where 1/60 will be prohibited. Here, as long as it's 49% corn flour and not 51% corn flour, and you don't see any corn. If there's any kernels of corn, you have to take them out. But if all it is mixed in, it can be up to 50%. As a matter of fact, this is very important. Many poskim, myself included, in recent years, have gone in the direction that all the products you see in the supermarket that say may contain kitniot or does contain kitniot, you know why it says it contains kitniot? Because there's some additive or some preservative which is for sure less than 50% of the final product. And anything that's mixed in the standard halacha is by kitniyot, we follow the rules of majority, not 1/60th. And so a lot of products, unless you can actually see, beans or legumes in it, or you know that it's more than 51%, those keep the custom. But anything that's less than 50%, there's room to be lenient. However, and as you can say here, it's permissible for one who does not eat kidneyot. You asked about going to someone's house.
Yeah.
I don't eat kidneyot, but how can I go to Sephardi's house? All of his dishes are full of kidneyot. His dishes are full of rice and that. So he serves me some soup, which is, without rice in it. You can even have the soup with rice in it. Just don't eat the rice. That's what he says here. It's permissible. It's permissible for one who does not eat kidneyot on Pesach to eat from and cook with utensils that belong to one who does eat kidneyot. Here he's a little bit Machon Meir. He says, provided that 24 hours have elapsed since kidneyot were last cooked in them, if a food was cooked in such a utensil before 24 hours elapsed, the food remains kosher. There's more room to be even more lenient if you're gonna offend your mother-in-law or something like that. She serves you something she didn't realize she put in kidneyot, and she's from a Sephardic family, for example. Then there's room to be lenient and just eat the food and not the actual legume. Yes, you had a question.
So the nut, the essence, the taste, etc., even kitniyot, they have that put into the food, kitchen items, cooking items, etc., all these things. So any food, even if it's parv, etc., has all this essence put into the
From the dishes, yeah.
dishes. Yes.
Right? That goes back to the other class. That's the general
Is
principle.
there a catch-all term in Hebrew that we use in halacha for cooking / kitchen items? Or no?
No? Vessels? I don't know. Kelim? Yeah, vessels? Yeah. Okay, now here, what is included, what about oils? Oils. Kidneyot that never touched water. I see that we may have to take this over to the other day. No, I think we could do it. We have 5 minutes. Let's try to finish. Okay? We are stricter with kidneyot than we are with the 5 cereal grains. We are not stricter, I'm sorry. So whatever is acceptable regarding these grains is kosher for kidneyot. Thus, kidneyot that have not come in contact with water, or that have come into contact with water, but were not left for more than 18 minutes before being cooked, may be eaten. Some poskim restrict, but most are lenient. In other words, that's what I was telling you about the rice cakes. If there's no water, it's not going to become chametz. It's just like if you had flour. I spoke to you about flour made from wheat. If you're absolutely sure that there's no water mixed in, it's kosher. It only becomes not kosher, it only becomes if it's chametz. Chametz, you need some water to mix. If there's no water touching it, then it's allowed. That's why oils made from soy, for example, and some whiskeys made from kitniyot, rice whiskey. There is such a thing. Those who rule leniently contend that kitniyot prohibitions does not extend to oil extracted from them, while those who rule stringently maintain that kitniyot oil has the same status as the kitniyot themselves. And the middle position is that if it's been rinsed in water, they become forbidden, but if not, they do not have the status of kitniyot. The big examples are on the top of page 117. Soybean and cottonseed and canola oil are not included in the prohibition. Many are stringent about soybean and canola oils, but whoever wishes to be lenient may be so. This widespread custom regarding cottonseed oil is to be lenient. You know what canola oil is? What's it made from? Rapeseed, which is made from rapeseed is a type of it's a type of a flour, and they press it. And why is it called canola? Made in Canada. Why? Because for years they had this oil that they extracted from the rapeseed. They used it primarily in cleaning engines. The stuff was toxic. You can't eat it. In Canada, there's one company that figured it out about 100 years ago, how to remove the toxicity and make an oil, which apparently is very useful and very good to eat. And now the question became, wait, so it's a seed. A seed looks like kitniyot, but Nobody could ever eat the stuff before 100 years ago. So should that be included in the custom to refrain from it? So that's why I do have canola oil on Pesach, although many don't, because it comes from a seed which looks like, and so forth and so forth. Soy oil, also here Rav Kook had a major heter, and the discussion was he was feeling that they really didn't have enough to eat in the Yishuv in the early 20th century. And he went to the factories and he saw that they're not using any water in the manufacturing process. And he said, you can have the soy oil, it's not a problem. And so there's room to be lenient with the oils. Candies and chocolates, this is the major question. This is what I was telling you before, that even though it says it contains kitniot, don't think if you're an Ashkenazi you can't have those chocolates. Why? Take a look. It says on page 118 in the second paragraph, chocolate and candy labeled kosher for Pesach, only for those who eat kitniot, are technically permissible, even for those who do not eat kitniot. It's a mislabeling. We should fix it, but we haven't been able to. Why? Because the kitniot in these products are added before Pesach and are batal barov, they're nullified. Why? In addition, these products generally contain kitniot oils, which according to the several poskim are not included in the custom. And also, even if they have the kitniot oil, because they have something called lecithin. Lecithin, as you can see in the footnote number 7, is derived from rapeseed, and halachically it's not really considered kitniot, but there are certain kashrut organizations that are machmir, and you can see in the footnote the whole debate about this rapeseed and rapeseed oil and lecithin. Therefore, all those chocolates which say on them they're only for people who eat kitniot, it's not true, because the only kitniot they have in them is from rapeseed, which is not considered kitniot according to many people, and it's less than 1/60th, and it was all nullified before Pesach, and therefore have a lot of chocolate. But in practice, there are people who are stringent, and that's why the kosher certification agencies are not willing to change the label. They've been asked many times by rabbis, but other rabbis say, no, we still want to keep the label, and we want to be machmir on this, and so it's very, very hard to find kosher l'Pesach chocolate that says on it, kosher l'Pesach, even for those who don't want to eat kitniot. But really, telling you the inside scoop, even if you're an Ashkenazi, you can have all those chocolates that say kosher l'Pesach only for those who don't eat kitniot. Okay, we'll stop here, and B'ezrat Hashem, we'll get into more laws of Pesach soon.